Dane County Housing Authority operates public housing and the Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher Program in Dane County, primarily outside of the city of Madison. We have 86 units of public housing and 1,211 Section 8 vouchers. Currently in our Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher Program, as I said, we have an allocation of 1,211 vouchers, but we only have about 1,035 of those vouchers in release. The reason is we have a voucher allocation, but we have a budget authority. And our budget authority, compared to the high rents in our area, only means we can lease 1,035 of those. So we have approximately 150 vouchers that we can't use. They just sit on the shelf. The majority of the funding for the Dane County Housing Authority comes from the administrative dollars HUD pays us on that program. If we have 176 vouchers unfunded, that means we're not collecting admin fees on those. And for our admin dollars, we're supposed to get $68 per voucher we have under lease per month. That's what pays our salaries, our office rent, all the expenses of running our programs. But we're not getting $68 a month. They're only giving us 77 cents on the dollar, which means we're only getting $52.36 per voucher per month. On a year, that costs us $227,280 in lost revenue to run our program. We've had to cut our home ownership program. We used to have a down payment assistance program. We used to have a lot more programs for advocacy to help people when they had a bad situation, like the landlord Alder Cheeks talked about. We can't do that anymore because we don't receive that funding. Then, if you consider those 176 vouchers we don't have under lease, that costs us another $110,000 in administrative dollars per year. So it's getting very difficult just to keep our doors open with cuts like that. That's 2017. That's not talking about the president's proposed cuts. They're talking about another 4% cut to the Section 8 program in 2018. That means 50 more families that we currently have on our Section 8 program that will have to come off. Public housing is actually worse. Currently, so we have 86 units of public housing, which isn't very many, and we receive about $110,000 a year to operate that housing and another $92,000 to make capital improvements. That is about a 46% cut in actual dollars from 2010. So not inflation adjusted, we are already operating at a 46% cut in public housing. The proposed cut for 2018 is another 67% on top of that. For our capital fund, what that means is that instead of getting that $92,000 a year, we get $30,360 or $29 per unit per month. What can we replace in a 40-year-old public housing unit for $29? A blind? I don't know. We looked at that number where we estimate that the capital improvement backlog in public housing nationwide is around $30 to $50 billion. And this is very clear. They want to shut public housing down. Well, one thing I'd like to point out, people like to talk a lot about how public housing failed. And public housing didn't fail. You know, there's the big stories about Cabrini Green that you see, but public housing did not fail. Congress failed public housing by not funding it. And as Joe talked about, part of the reason behind that was that public housing was run by public housing authorities, your local nonprofit housing provider. And the Realtors Association didn't like that. My little sister's a realtor. I like realtors. But as a lobbying group, it was very important for them to make public housing fail and create the Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher Program to transition those funds into away from public housing authorities. We see this a lot in all of government, whether it's public schools going to voucher programs or jails going to private prisons. It's all about taking these programs out of the commons and the public sector and finding a way to make money on it. We don't have money for roads, let's sell them off to a company that's going to open tolls, right? So this is another step in that process. How do we take these units away from your local not-for-profit housing providers and get them into the public sector? And it's working. Public housing authorities are folding. There have been public housing authorities in the state of Wisconsin that simply were not able to continue to operate their Section 8 programs at the current administrative levels. And what happens is those programs get taken away and they get sent to WIDA. WIDA's great, I worked there for many years. But if you have a Section 8 program closing in Eau Claire, and that program is now sent to Madison, where WIDA takes 20% of the administrative fees off the top and subcontracts that work out to another agency, how are those local families in Eau Claire getting better service than they were getting from their local public housing authority before? Well, they're not. You can't do it. It doesn't make any sense. So I think from our standpoint, we're working really hard to find non-HUD sources of revenue for our housing authority so that we can actually subsidize the federal programs that we run and stay open. And if anything close to what the president proposed goes through, that's going to be very difficult.